What's going on, Star Wars fans? How you doing? It's John. In this video, I want to talk about and list my favorite Star Wars live-action TV shows from what I like the least to what I like the most. There's 6 of them currently. The Skeleton Crew is coming out later this year in December, in a few months from filming this. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. I saw the trailer. It reminded me of Goonies meets Star Wars. I thought that was a really cool kind of young kid themed vibe. I thought it was a cool premise. So I'm really excited for that. And the most recent, of course, was the Acolyte that came out earlier this year. Got mixed reviews. But before I show and talk about and rank my TV series and explain why I like it or don't like it, I do want to just say I do miss the movies part of Star Wars. Like going to a movie, and there's something about going to a movie and watching a new Star Wars film, seeing the new, hearing the Star Wars music from the very beginning, all that good stuff. And it's hard to believe that it's been almost 5 years. The Rise of Skywalker, more specifically, in 2019 was the last Star Wars movie that we had in cinema. And that's a travesty, in my opinion. I think, I know for a while Disney was going to have a new Star Wars movie every year, which I think is too much, right? And it was because, in my opinion, because of Solo, how it performed in the theaters, or didn't perform, so to speak. And that's why they got cold feet and they kind of changed direction. So they really put a lot more effort into the TV series part of it with live action, which, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy, and I think the production value is great. But I do miss going to the cinema and watching a new Star Wars film. And they haven't taken the pedal off the gas in terms of the Marvel movies, certainly. And we see a new Marvel movie almost every 2 to 3 months. It's overkill, in my opinion. But for some reason, Star Wars, they're shy to make a new movie. Now, having said that, they are in the works of making several new Star Wars movies. There's a new Mandalorian movie coming out, for example. It's going to be part of the Mandalorian verse, so to speak, and that'll be cool to see. And so they are going to start making some new movies here shortly. But we've had quite a bit of gap. We've had 5 years, and it'll probably be closer to 6 before we see a new Star Wars film in the theaters. So I just want to start with that. I do miss seeing Star Wars films in the theaters. So my number 6 on my list for Star Wars shows, live action shows, and these are live action shows. I'm not include Clone Wars, which is obviously fantastic. Highly recommend. Star Wars Rebels, obviously great show. These are only live action lists. There's 6 shows total. Number 6 on my list is Acolyte, the most recent one. This is what took place during the High Republic era, right? So this is roughly 100 years before Episode 1. So I really was excited hearing about this because we've seen comic books, we've read books about the High Republic. We've got the Old Republic, of course, video game, classic. But this time period, we really don't know much about Star Wars. So I was really excited to see the show because I would kind of see how the ships are and the clothing are and how the characters' designs are, etc. And really, at the end of the day, when I watched Acolyte and there's 8 episodes, I was disappointed because it didn't really look too much different than when we watched Mandalorian, to be honest, or any other time frame of Star Wars. They didn't really dive into the High Republic much. The characters were okay. I think Sol, who's the main Jedi guy character in the show, I really liked him as a Jedi. I thought he was a pretty good guy. Of course, you had Osha and May, who are the 2 twin girls, who are the kind of the stars of the show, so to speak. And then I know the one big controversial part of Acolyte was the lesbian witches, right? A lot of people were calling it woke and Disney, etc., and were boycotting the show because of these lesbian witches. And to be honest with you, it didn't really bother me that much. I understand you have to kind of come in with an open mind. If you're going to watch anything Disney, to be honest, you're going to expect some LGBTQ+, right? And that's just kind of their business model, and that's fine. So it's in everything. I mean, I was watching, what was I watching Disney the other day, and it kind of showed up randomly, and it's just kind of there. But my point though is that in this particular situation, that didn't really add to the show itself, right? We didn't need to know that they were lesbians, and it was kind of subtle, but it is what it is. It didn't really add to the characters or anything like that to make them who they were necessarily. But that's fine. That's not why I didn't care for the show. Why I didn't care for the show was I thought the characters itself were kind of weak. I thought one positive part about Acolyte I really enjoyed were the fighting scenes. The stranger, the main bad character, the villain, so to speak, in the movie, was just okay. I felt he was very much like, I thought he was very much like a Kylo Ren ripoff. I'll be honest, that's kind of what I thought he was. The face from the helmet he wore to his lightsaber to his moves, very much Kylo Ren, very much Star Wars, kind of a copy and paste is what we see with the Sith. But he was like one of the very early Sith. Now, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show, please don't watch the next 10 seconds because I'm going to kind of spoil a little bit. But at the very end episode, we got introduced to Yoda at the very last couple seconds of the show. And you could tell they were leading up to season 2. Now, Disney announced they're not going to make a season 2 based on kind of the reviews and based on how the audience really care for the show. So we're not going to see a continuation of Acolyte, which is kind of disappointing. I'd like to see how Yoda would have come into play with this, the show. But I thought it was okay. Wasn't great. Characters, it was kind of like a lot of the shows, like I forget what episode it was, like episode 3 and like episode 6, I felt like we're copy and paste, like they showed the same scenes. I may have the episodes wrong, but there was a lot of part of the show that they showed a lot of similar scenes, and it was like copy and paste, and because it felt like filler. I thought the Wookiee Jedi was kind of a cool touch. That was a nice touch. Don't remember the character's name off the top of my head, but overall, I think the fighting scenes were good. Characters were weak, and the storyline was weak, right? And it was a show that, at the end of the day, if we didn't see it, didn't really add any to like the overall Star Wars arc of the overall story, to be honest. So that's why it's number 6 on my list. Number 5 on my list is the book of Boba Fett. And I like Boba Fett as a character. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters out there, right? And we got to know, this is one of the shorter series. It was only 7 episodes total. And we got to know in the very early episodes of how how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit. That was kind of interesting to see, and how he kind of joined with the Sand People, right, the Tusken Raiders, and how that kind of came to be. But in the middle of the series, it started basically becoming like a spinoff of The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian came and really stole the show for a couple episodes. And we saw the training scene with Luke, and that was kind of cool, but it was like, is this Boba Fett or is this Mandalorian? And it felt like The Mandalorian really took over the series. And we could have done without those episodes, and those could have been like another season for Mandalorian and kind of put into that series. So basically what ended up happening, if you didn't watch Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, and you went from season 2 to season 3 of Mandalorian, you kind of got lost, right? Because it kind of explained really important things of how the Mandalorian got Grogu back, right? And that's a really important thing to understand. So I think that led to a lot of confusion. I assume Disney probably assumed that people thought they just watched Boba Fett, and many people didn't. So I thought Boba Fett also kind of came across as a weaker character. Back in the day, Boba Fett is very strong, like, bounty hunter, and didn't really put up with much stuff. And in this series, for example, I felt that he was kind of weak, I'll be honest, and it was kind of disappointing. I thought the Rancor scene at the very end was really cool. Last episode was really awesome, how the Rancor took over the area and all that good stuff. The special effects were amazingly good. But disappointed how the series ended up turned out. That's why it's number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list is Ahsoka, which is the second newest series. 8 episodes total. They're going to do they've announced a second season, which is exciting, and very much an extension of Rebels. And if you haven't seen Rebels, I highly recommend it. It's an amazing series. And a lot of the characters that we saw in Rebels, Sabine, for example, Ezra, live action Ezra was awesome. Thrawn made an appearance. Anakin, the ghost scenes of Anakin coming back and finishing his training with Ahsoka, I thought that was really cool. I thought Thrawn is an amazing character. They got the same voice actor who played the voice in the cartoon. They got him to reprise his role as Grand Admiral Thrawn. I thought at the point where I kind of got lost were the Stormtrooper zombies, and that was interesting but kind of weird. And you got the witches, and that was kind of strange. But overall, if you like Rebels, I thought Ahsoka was a really decent series. Ahsoka, Rosario Dawson, who played Ahsoka, I thought did a phenomenal job. Some really cool fight scenes. She's a great character, and it's really cool to see a really strong female character in Star Wars, and Ahsoka's certainly one of them, and I'm all for that. So Ahsoka's not terrible by any stretch of imagination, but it wasn't my favorite, and it's kind of middle of my list. It's number 4. Number 3 on my list is Obi-Wan series, right? Star Wars Obi-Wan, and essentially this takes place 10 years after Episode 3. We kind of encounter what happened to Obi-Wan. He's obviously a hermit at this point. Anakin and Leia have been separated. They're now about 10 years old, and he's kind of keeping a watchful eye on Luke. So it's very much had a very good feel for me anyway to the original prequel series, which is phenomenal, like great. I'm actually one of the few Star Wars fans my age that likes the prequel films. But I thought the flashback scenes of Anakin and Obi-Wan, love that they brought back Anakin. Oh, really quick, going back to Ahsoka real quick. Yeah, Anakin, Hayden Christensen played Anakin. I thought he did a phenomenal job. And he's also in Obi-Wan, and he played Darth Vader in this series. And just the flashbacks were great. But I thought the battles, my favorite scene of the series was when Obi-Wan's going against Darth Vader. And, you don't realize, the point in the series that Obi-Wan didn't realize that Anakin turned into Darth Vader, and he kind of finds out, and he's shocked that he's still alive, because he left him and assumed that he just left him for dead, right? Never knew that he actually was saved. So that was kind of a really eye-opening moment for me in Star Wars. And it was only 6 episodes of the series, so it was very short. This intended was going to be initially like a film in itself, a standalone movie. And there's people who've done edits. There's a guy who did an edit and basically took all the episodes and kind of edited them together to be like a movie, and I thought it worked much better. So overall, I thought Obi-Wan was pretty well done, and a lot of people didn't care for it. A lot of people felt that Leia kind of stole the show, the young Leia anyway. And I thought she was pretty good. I thought it was a cool. We only saw a little bit of Luke in the series, but loved how the series turned out. I like the Sith in the film, right? I felt that was a really cool character design, and the sisters and all that good stuff I thought was really good. So I really enjoyed Obi-Wan, the series. Number 2 on my list, The Mandalorian. There's been 3 seasons. I felt 2 of the 3 were really good. First and second season were phenomenal. Third season was okay. Obviously the first live action Star Wars series that we've had was Mandalorian, and I think they nailed it. Character design's awesome. Obviously Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, is super cute and a great character, and a lot of the characters are great. Great special effects. Really not much bad to say about The Mandalorian. We get to know a little bit more about The Mandalorian and the customs, and I didn't really understand that Mandalorians are technically not supposed to take off their helmet. Obviously we see Boba Fett do it. We see other Mandalorians do it, but he is a very hardcore old school Mandalorian rules. And it's cool to understand and get a feel for the Mandalorian culture. And the character itself is a really strong character. And I just thought that special effects were amazing, and really not too much bad to say about the Mandalorian character itself. I thought the battle scenes were really cool. And then there's obviously, it's led to spin-offs like Ahsoka, and it's led to spin-offs like Boba Fett and all that good stuff. But really cool series overall. Mandalorian's number 2. Number 1 on my list, that leaves us, you probably know it by now, Andor. If you haven't seen Andor, I highly recommend it. This is a 12-episode series. It's the longest series out of all 6 so far. They have announced a second season, which is super exciting. And this is a prequel to Star Wars Rogue One. And Star Wars Rogue One is my favorite new Star Wars movie by Disney. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And it's a prequel to Star Wars A New Hope. It takes place right before that. So this is a prequel to Rogue One. So it takes place a little bit before Episode 4, if that makes sense, okay? In Star Wars time frame. And we follow Andor, and it's really a series of many key story arcs, right? The first one is breaking in and getting those credits from the Empire, which is really fascinating how they do that. The second part is him getting captured by the Empire and trying to basically escape being imprisoned and being a slave to building his various parts, and that was fascinating. But it's a slow burn. I know a lot of people complained about it being kind of slow, and my wife didn't really enjoy it. She gave up on it after 3 episodes. It is a slow burn, but it is so well written. Character development is so intriguing. I think because they made it 12 episodes instead of 8, I thought it was a smart decision. And we got to know more about Andor, his character himself, and basically the last episode left it on a huge cliffhanger. So I'm really excited to see what happens in future season. And it got to see how the rebels handle themselves, and we got to see kind of a darker side of the rebels, right? That they're not always squeaky clean, and they got their hands dirty many times, and there's kind of a gray area in terms of, are these good guys or bad guys? And I think that's a very interesting take on how things. We got to see Mon Mothma and her character develop as well, with her struggles with finances and trying to get dirty money to help get her out of some issues. And I thought, there's so many good things to say about Andor. If you have not seen Andor, I highly recommend it. Anyway, that's my list, guys. I appreciate you leaving a comment below. Let me know what your guys' favorite Star Wars live-action TV shows are and why. Appreciate you subscribing as always. We'll see you guys soon. Take care. And, of course, may the Force be with you always.